everybody. I'm Scott McClure. I'm part of UCSD. It's going to be Long Center for Criminality, Addiction, Research, Training, and Application, which is CCARTA for an acronym. But I'm a doctoral candidate, and I've got 7 years experience, doctoral candidate in clinical psychology, but 7 years experience working in the field of addictions as far as anywhere from homeless population down to college students, and most frequently in the last 3 to 4 years I've been working with co-occurring disorders, which is a hybrid between having a mental illness and substance use, and now working at UCSD's CARTA program as part of a professional trainer for Department of Corrections treatment facilities and community providers. And I think today the topic, I bring up all the background because this is a topic that I think for me is in particular interest and why I think this is going to be a really strong, successful program. And we're looking at the topic of who matches what type of treatment and how does this affect 618. And Dr. Marlowe up there, Dr. Marlowe from University of Pennsylvania, he's a leading researcher in criminality and addiction treatment, and he looked at the variables of what are the commonalities amongst these people who are in the treatment as far as being in the correctional system and getting treatment for substance use. And he also said, let's put together some type of a matrix that we can say what are these different categories of different types of people that are going to match treatment appropriately and how they're going to do in treatment, so we can develop an idea of what to do with people in treatment. And that's what's going to be the core of this part of the presentation. So the first part we're going to talk about is criminogenic risks. And when we get to the matrix, there's going to be two pieces. There's going to be risks and there's going to be needs. Now for the sake of this part, we're going to call risks of the criminogenic nature. We understand that substance use is also a criminal behavior and people would become incarcerated for it, but we're going to look at risks that could be part of a criminal pattern that could be with or without substance use, so it'll be part of it. But needs are going to focus specifically on substance use, and that'll really tie in when you see the way the matrix is laid out. So when we first look at the criminogenic risks and we take all this research that's been out there and start combining what are the commonalities of the people in this system, we find that during the age of rehabilitation, it's usually less than 25 years of age. Criminal onset is, early childhood through adolescence into early adulthood. So before years of 16, they've already got some criminal behavior going on. This is the kids that might be going through juvenile hall, some shoplifting, some violent crimes already, maybe some gang violence. Prior rehabilitation failures, so someone's been in some type of treatment, whether it's been in lockdown or whether it's been in substance use treatment, but it's not quite working yet. It's just something's not clicking with this particular individual. There is a history of violence. This is a person that's been in multiple fights or has been in situations, maybe even domestic violence. A lot of these turn into potentially antisocial personality disorder, which is not just behavior, but it's so many of these different traits put together that when you take the diagnostic statistical manual that people use to diagnose disorders, it has created a whole personality disorder, which is antisocial. And that's generally often in the prison population is going to be one of your higher risk individuals as far as, maybe potentials for violence, maybe some of even the gang activity. It's going to be one of the things that's going to be, it's a characterological thing, so it's pervasive over their lifetime. And then you have psychopathy, which is going to be going to some of the maybe even antisocial behavior, but also mental illness types of issues that get locked into a person's development and who they are and their brain chemistry even. Family history of crime, did they grow up in a crime family? We know, I think, working out there, a lot of people have connection that start from their early years because the parents were slingers or they're gangbangers or they're Hell's Angels or whatnot. So crime history develops a pattern of thinking. And when you're a child, you learn to interpret the world often through your environment. So you might have a new interpretation of how to live life that makes sense to you, and it creates a pattern of behavior that gets you in trouble in life. And also criminal associations. Who are we hanging out with? So now that was the risk. Now let's flip into the needs. When we look at needs, we're going to be comparing dependency and addiction versus abuse and misuse, okay? And so when we get this matrix going, there's going to be different people in these different categories. Drug dependence is going to be characterized by a binge pattern of use. And pattern is a key word in binge because someone who misuses substances might binge, but this person binges on a regular basis. And it creates a lot of problems physically, characterologically, health-wise, and also legally. Cravings or compulsions, so they're doing things to act out. They've got this internal drive which often becomes dictated eventually by brain chemistry. But they have an internal drive to get this, and they're going to act on that drive, and it turns into compulsive behavior. Their mind is driven by the fact of scoring what they need to get themselves to feel the way they want to feel. And then also, withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal symptoms are one of the cores of dependency. When you get to the level where your body is going to feel something physically, you're at a place of dependency. And the one that we don't have up there, but it's a major part also, is your tolerance level. It's a major factor in dependency as well. With individuals in this dependency category, abstinence is a distant goal, okay? Abstinence is a goal we want, but the reality is we don't just say, hey man, you're messing things up, your life's not going well, so if you just stop using drugs, everything's gonna be fine. That would be wonderful. We wouldn't even have to have 618 if we could do that. But it doesn't work that way, I think we find. What we find is people relapse time and time and again. It's a progressive process, and people have to be very motivated and also work very hard to get themselves to the level of not using again. So abstinence becomes this fine word we have, distal, which just is a distant goal. It's something that we hope for and we're going to strive for in the future and build up to. Now for abuse and misuse, on the other hand, abstinence is going to be an immediate goal. We have a different individual here. Abuse and misuse, this person could maybe trickle into dependency later, but at this point, wherever they're at, for some reason, tolerance is one factor that's genetically related to people becoming dependent. This person might have a high tolerance, so they get really sick if they use. The consequence is so high, they don't keep reusing. They're just an occasional person. They don't get locked into it. Your brain, your neurotransmitters in your brain and whatnot, they change when you use to, but this person's, they've got enough pleasure stuff in there to not have to use all the time to feel the way they want to feel. So they might use on occasion, but they don't get locked into it like a dependency pattern. Now, collateral needs are going to be something of also great importance, and that's when we're talking about, as Lupe brought up earlier, we're talking about co-occurring dual disorders. Do these people have mental health issues? What's going on? What's the extremeness of the mental health issue? If we're on a continuum, where are they at? Also, are they HIV positive? Do they have hepatitis C? Do they have physiological characteristics that contribute to their use? Self-esteem issues fall into this category. A lot of things that build into the whole overall dynamic of this person that we're working on treatment. So here, now we have our matrix. So we got the layout. We've got with the high risk and the low risk, the high needs and low needs, and we talked about needs versus risk. So let's talk about this first quadrant of the matrix. We have high risk, high needs, okay? Who is this person? This person is the person who, let's just lay one out. This is somebody who's got a really strong bipolar / manic depression. This person gets so high, sometimes without drugs even, and with drugs, that their mania clicks into a level that they are almost psychotic. They think that maybe they are king of the world, they're running around. It's a great idea to go out and get an 8-ball of cocaine and a bottle of whiskey and get in the Ferrari and drive to Vegas because they like to do that and it's funny to take the risk. So this person also may, decide, hey, I'm down and out too, I'm so low, I don't care. Might be a suicidal person. But this is a person too who is also equally addicted to criminal behavior. So this is what makes this one a special category. If we look at what addiction is, addiction doesn't just mean substances. Addiction is a behavioral pattern. And it's a behavioral pattern with maladaptive features to it. Your life's not going well because of what you're doing. This person is addicted to both criminal behavior as well as substance use behavior. Then we flip into a low risk, high needs person. Now this is your ideal role model for treatment. This is a person throughout the research who does best in treatment. And that's because they are driven first by the substances, and criminal behavior is a side effect of it. Now, it's still criminal behavior, but this is the person who uses heroin, let's say, that didn't know that they were going to get so locked into it, didn't maybe have the knowledge to understand how physical of an addiction it is. Now, every time they're detoxing, they feel like they have the worst flu in the world and their skin's ripping off their bones. And at some point in time, they say, I don't want to feel like this. I got to do whatever I got to do. It's an expensive addiction. Oh, there's a car. Okay, I see a purse. What's one time? Turns into maybe a pattern of criminal behavior, theft, burglary, whatever. Maybe even some type of assault, depending on what substance and the environment and the person. But this person, the unique feature is, this person, if you treat the substances and you get that nick, that criminal behavior just starts to slide right out the window. This is going to be the person that's probably going to get the strongest benefit from our treatment model. Now we have our counterpart. High risk, low needs. High risk, low needs means criminal behavior primary, substance use par for the course. This is your person that uses substances because they use substances, probably for some of the same reasons or whatnot, but that's not their driving factor. Substances are just something in their environment, something they like to do as part of who they are. An example I like to give of this is there's a gentleman I worked with years ago who basically did a very premeditated crime. He knew that, and this is a person with a long history too. You remember the early criterion. This person had a long history of selling drugs, being involved in gang violence and fighting, domestic violence, across the board. He's got a lot of antisocial behavior, probably crosses into a personality disorder. And this person was one time threatened by a couple of people for having a relationship with a guy's wife, and the guys came and threatened him, with baseball bats, say, hey, we're gonna beat you up, get all this and this and that. And this guy, they didn't realize who they were dealing with, really. I mean, it's unfortunate for them. But, so they get a consequence for their action, right? So what happens is this guy goes out and this guy does a whole bunch of cocaine, maybe close to 1 gram, drinks a bunch of whiskey, shows up at their house with a shotgun, kicks the door in, holds them hostage, drinks their beer while humiliating them, making them watch TV with them as he holds a shotgun to them. And I'm thinking, dang, man, what's going on? This is pretty hardcore. I go, why'd you use all the drugs and everything? Wouldn't that take your... He's like, no, man, it's all the cocaine will keep me straight because it'll keep me straight while I'm drunk. At the same time, I'll have so much stuff in my system. If I get arrested, I'll know that they're going to focus on my substance use because they're going to see all this in my system. And I can flip the script and I'll probably get a lighter sentence if I get caught. This guy, definitely criminal first. Substances became a tool for this part of his situation. And then we have our fourth quadrant here, which is low risk, low need. Low risk, low need is this guy. Dr. Smith regularly does happy hour with his friends, and he works at X, Y, and Z medical unit, and he's been doing this for 40 years. He's tired, but he likes his job, but all of a sudden they have a short staff. And imagine that, something has short staff and they make him do more work. So they put him in ER. He's stressed out. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't like that. It's too much for him now. He's not a young buck anymore. He doesn't need the stimulus. So he goes out and happy hour, he decides to have 5 cocktails rather than 2. And he's like, I feel fine, I can drive, blah, 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 blah. Well, Dr. Smith gets in a collision that turns into an injury accident. Doesn't kill the person, breaks the person's leg, but it's an injury accident. Cops show up, he goes to jail. Is he a drug-dependent person, alcohol-dependent person? Or is he a person who just pretty much blew it, made a bad mistake on this one? Dr. Smith, his intervention is going to be prevention. I mean, really, getting arrested may be enough intervention for him to say, whoa, I don't even want to drink again at all. So it's kind of developing an idea like who does what, why they do it, and what's going on with them inside. So what are our practical implications? What do we do this? How do we see this in treatment? I'll just drop all these down real quick. With our high risk, high needs individual, you need high everything. You're going to need high intensity of treatment. You're going to also need high intensity of monitoring. So this person's going to have the frequent meetings with their PA. They're going to have intensive treatment. This person may have to be on a high medication regimen if they're bipolar or whatnot to maintain a stable mood cycle, or if they're psychotic and schizophrenic, because their impulsivity and their judgment's off even without substances. This person also, compliance is now. You have to be in compliance right now. There's not a looseness with this because their impulsivity, risk-taking factor, whatever, leads them into trouble too quickly. Restrictive sanctions are going to be at a higher level, but a key, since we're talking treatment, we're talking about behavioral change. We're not just talking about management. Behavioral change comes from positive reinforcement. That is the most successful. Punishment, it manages behavior, decreases behavior. Reinforcement changes behavior. So reinforcement means we need to let this person know frequently what they're doing right so that they learn that that's a good thing to do. So we want to flip behaviors. We want to trade old with new behaviors. Then we jump into our low risk group. Drop a couple down here. So the low risk, high needs group, this is going to be your strong treatment. Treatment is now, treatment's proximal. Intensive treatment, it's going to be really heavy, hardcore treatment, whether it's therapeutic community treatment, but it's very involved. These guys are locked into treatment, and it's intensive, it's ongoing, and it's frequently monitored. And also, they're going to be participating in non-compliance hearings, and positive reinforcement, again, maintains itself in this category. We really need to focus on that. That person needs some behavioral change. Then we jump into our low needs, high risk group. Now this is a different group, okay? Abstinence, now. This group needs to not be doing substances because they're already at high risk without substances. Substances just basically make that risk even higher. So abstinence is now because it's a safety issue to some extent for that person and other people around them. And heavy restrictive sanctions are going to be very much a part of this person's treatment. This person probably without heavy restrictive sanctions isn't going to do very well in treatment because this person probably, quote unquote, doesn't have a problem, to their thinking at least. And then we have our low risk, high needs group. Low needs, thank you. Our low risk, low needs group. And basically treatment's going to be secondary prevention, abstinence is now. Basically, treatment's going to be lighter for this person. Abstinence is going to be pushed immediately because the decision-making process didn't go well and it led to a consequence that they weren't prepared to deal with. And this person's going to definitely probably not benefit as much even from standard high intensity treatment as this person, but they're going to benefit in general just by having the interaction. And this person's going to meet with their PO probably a little bit less or their PA a little bit less, and they're probably going to be okay. They just blew it that time. They blow it again, they might start changing categories. So in this pretty much hopefully gives you an overview of like what type of people that you're going to be working with in general and who's going to do best in what type of treatment program. And I think, as Lupe said, I'll be around as well. And if you have any extra questions in more detail, feel free to grab me and pull me in. Thanks, everybody.